I'm here to talk about how you can expand your franchise or your business globally, having run global operations in over 77 countries, worked with many master franchisees and sub-franchisees. I just want to take a poll here. How many of us have got already franchises or business across multiple countries? A few of us, right? How many of us would like to learn how to expand your business, not only in your region, but other regions? Wonderful. So I'm in the right room. So I have a few slides. I have about a half an hour run time. They're giving me like 25 minutes for my presentation and some Q&A. It is what it is. So I'm going to share some of my experiences in running markets in the last 18 years for global companies. All right. So I always start. Many of you have read this book. Just by show of hands again, how many of you read this book by Simon Sinek or seen a video? Okay, it's a book that I would strongly encourage every business owner to, even if you don't get time to read the book, go to YouTube, Google Simon Sinek and the why, because that is where the base of everything that you start. Why you do what you do. Okay, why do you, even your core business, if you understand that, the core concept properly, it becomes easy for you to explain your business and start duplicating yourself. So the reason why we are expanding our business either to grow new markets, expand into other territories that we have not been before. So I would encourage this book. Here, some of the lessons I learned when I opened up markets in various Asia-Pacific countries and other countries, maybe Latin America, China, is, and this is not a comprehensive list. First, you have to assess, are you ready to expand? Sometimes we go ahead of the game and we just jump in and say, look, I already have a business. You may not have all the processes ready yet, but are you ready to expand? Are you performing well in your current operations? If you're not yet reached that critical point of stability in your current operations, do not expand. It'll drag you down. Make sure your current operations is functional, you have a good team, you have good finances, before you step into something other outside of your range. And I also encourage many of our franchisees who come to me and say, look, I want to take another region, another territory. I always assess how well are they doing in their current territory. Do they have an operating team in their current territory before I give them anything else? Identify a target market. I did this when my experience, my background, I've lived in the US, my background is actually in technology. I'm a robotics engineer. I remember when I first came back to India to set up operations here, a lot of these, I had to identify about my target markets, the investments needed, the resources. Do you have the resources needed? Have you done your research on ROI? How many years is it going to take? And my next slide is going to show you the 4 different ways of expanding your market. But you have to also understand how much money do you have, how much bank funding, how much venture capital funding you have, and when is the break-even going to happen? What does it take to set up your company in the new market? Sometimes it is easy. I have set up, when I came to India, things that I thought would be easy were tough. Things that I thought were going to be tough were easy. So understanding that, legal compliances, regulatory compliances, tax compliances, I think companies like Frank Corp and others can help you through this. But this is a very key area if you're expanding the market. This is another thing people don't realize. Do you have the ability to transfer funds in and out? We jump in, we go and find a partner in another country, we get into an agreement with them, an MOU with them, but then when we start doing the banking regulations and everything, we realize we're not able to actually pull out money from that country because of foreign exchange rules that prevent them from moving some royalties back to you. So these are the very key points that I've noticed in my experience here. And then finding local partners, vendors. So what are the 4 different ways you can expand your business? The first way, the simplest way, and I've ordered it by way of risk, and I've ordered it by way of control, okay? So on one side, the easiest way, if you have a product, you want to expand, you just export your product. You're finding a distributor there, it's a very low-risk proposition because your product is being produced in your home country, and you're just extending your product to them, right? So it's a low capital investment. You don't need to invest a lot of capital. You have an independent agent that you identify who will help you sell that product. They understand the culture better than you. So even if you're going to Cambodia or Laos, they know the local culture, the local language. And then one of the few things in this, the downsides to it is you actually give up control. Because you're only giving the product to them, you don't have any control. Because they are selling your product next to another product of your competitor, next to another product. So you do not know what is their hidden agenda as to which of those 3 or 4 they're going to market. How are they going to pitch it? So that's where the downside of that type of model is. But it's good for you to open up markets, at least in a new one. The second one is licensing. How many of you are familiar with licensing? Yeah, some of us are familiar. It is the ability of you to be able to license the brand and bring it to market. Or you license your product to another market. Okay? It's like the most famous, popular ones. You see Disney caps, you see NBA, all of them, they license that particular logo or a brand. And so as long as we follow the brand specifications and we have you give the license to them, they can duplicate that product in their country. Make sense? Yeah? So the next step above licensing, because licensing also you don't have too much of control of the process. It is very good when you're just duplicating a t-shirt, a logo, a brand, any of that type of merchandise. But when you're starting to run and operate operations like a McDonald's, that's where franchising comes in. Because in addition to the licensing, you want to make sure that that product, the formula that they're using is how you have assigned or defined it. Define that process. Okay, you have an operations manual. So that's where franchising comes in. Franchising has got a lot of regulatory laws behind it, compliances. In some countries you go in, you have to give something called franchise disclosure documents, FDDs. So understanding these are very essential before you jump into a country. In some countries, you take the licensing route. In some countries, the compliance for you to even establish yourself as a franchisor takes some time. And then the fourth step is direct investment. This is I would say, the most risky one, but here you have full control. This is when you decide to go buy another entity there and you take direct control, or you go, like what we have done several times, is we go and establish our own operations in that particular country. High capital investment, but I have the full control of the process and the people and how we run that process. So understanding what it takes. The balance in that type of model is you can also joint venture with someone in the local market. Okay, so that's the blend of when you're going direct investment. In direct investment, why is it high risk? Because sometimes you have invested in plant and machinery and other things, and when you need to exit, it may not be that easy to exit, but you have the maximum control. Does this make sense? The 4 different ways? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, so this is one thing that I learned years ago in Bali, a guy called Roger Hamilton. I was part of an entrepreneur business school. And he taught me this that actually helped me over the years make millions. And more than the money part, build the teams right. He told me, Mac, whenever you have an objective in mind. Okay, I want to move. I want to actually expand markets in India. Like I know our basketball friends are expanding markets in India. So that's their objective. And what is the second question that comes to your mind? What is the next thing comes to your mind? You normally ask, okay, how to do it, correct? Normally, any project we start off, hey, how do I go about doing this? He gave me a fantastic, valuable piece of advice. He told me, Mac, do not ask the question how. Do not ask the question how, because sometimes when you ask the question how, there is barriers that come. Huge wall that comes in between us, and we do not know how. Then you'll actually step out and you'll not do the project. So instead of asking how, he said, Mac, you go change the letters and ask who. Who has done this before? Who can you mentor? Who can you take mentorship from? Who can you partner with? Who can you hire who has been down that path before? I'll give you an example. When the pandemic hit us, I was running this organization, BNI globally. We had over 35 years we've been meeting in person, and suddenly we all have to meet online. Now, in those days, now the name Zoom is very familiar. But if you rewind back in 2019, 2018, we were all using Skype, we were using GoToMeeting, different other technologies. So when a large organization spanning 70 countries needs to move over 320,000 entrepreneurs into an online format, I reached out to who? I asked my franchisee in Hong Kong. And luckily for us, or unluckily for them, or whatever, they had gone through a challenge in 2019 when there were geopolitical issues in Hong Kong. And so they were forced to move some of their meetings online. So we asked them, what tools did you use? What was the script? How did you run it? And so from there, we were able to pivot an organization of over 320 entrepreneurs from an offline model to an online model. So this piece of advice I'm giving you, I always practice as well. The who will then determine when it can be done and how it can be done. So sometimes we don't need to come up with the whole answers of the how. You find out who has done it before and nothing. And more importantly, coming back to the center part of it is the why. Why do you want to do what you're doing? Why do you want to have that monkey on your back? Sometimes, you need to understand before you jump into a big risk proposition of going to a new country. I have my last 4 slides. This is another thing I learned from another friend of mine. He says, do you believe in luck? And I'm going to share with you what the luck is, and it kind of related back to franchising. The first one is location. Okay, we all can be very lucky if we actually pick the right location. When I moved my IT operations, establishing it in India, I studied 4 to 5 cities, found out where the labor cost was there, where can I find a good office space, where is the internet connectivity good. So it was very important to find the location. When I established in China, which is the city? Am I going to pick Shenzhen? Am I going to pick Guangzhou? Or am I needed to go Beijing? There were certain reasons why, Beijing or Shanghai. So we had to pick the city. So location, 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 like they say in real estate, same thing is applicable for your business as well. Please do your research before you just blindly jump into a particular country or a marketplace. The second thing is the understanding of your business, your core business. Understanding that is extremely important because sometimes we just overlook it. Okay, like my 2 friends here from Celebrate Life, they already know their product, but are they the masters in it? Because once you start teaching, you need to be a master in what you're doing before you teach others. Understanding your product becomes very important here. The third thing, connections. Again, it goes back to the who. Connections like environments like this, connections like partnering with an organization like FranCorp or Franchise India. They are the ones. When I came to India, how most of everything that I built out in India was through, hey, do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? When I went to China, okay, like in India, when I found my first office, I was working through a realtor, I was not getting it. Then I asked my Ernst & Young, the people who helped my establishment, hey, Deepa, do you know anyone that's got an office that I can use? I need to get my STPI registered. She referred me to an investment banking firm that was exiting India, and wonderful office, I got a wonderful space. Okay, but having those connections, building that network becomes very, very important. And then we have a last one is knowledge. In the luck is the knowledge. So once you got that, the knowledge of whether you get a referral to do your business. Let's say now you have a person who's interested in buying the basketball franchise. What is your next step? What is your follow-up? Is it a 24-hour follow-up? Is it a 48-hour? Do you give them the documentation? So there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that needs to happen. So the knowledge of what you do as soon as you get your first property or the first, you land over there, you need to know. I relate it a lot in the football terms, again, luck stands for location. Location or the football patch, the knowledge of playing the game and the understanding your game, okay? The connections, you need to have a team to pass you referrals and expand. And finally, if you get the ball, do you kick it into the goal or do you need to kick it to somebody else who will then kick it into the goal, right? So that's what luck is all about. And finally, there is a slide I do talk about, functional speed, process speed, timing speed, and expansion speed. I think I have about a few more minutes, but this is something I learned as well from other mentors, which I would strongly recommend. The functional speed is the team that you have in your office. The staff, like you saw this wonderful team here that Gaurav Maria assembled, that is the functional team for this organization. They are the ones that are meeting the clients, getting the contracts, getting the process moving to the next step. Okay, so how good is your team? How are you training them? How are you supporting them? The second one is process speed. I touched upon it a little bit earlier, is that from the time you get your order, how fast are you processing it? Okay, in the mortgage industry, it may take you so many weeks before you get the underwriter to sign up on it. In McDonald's, they measure it's 189 seconds from when the order is placed at the drive-in to when it is delivered. So how fast is your process speed? Understanding that. The third is the timing speed. This is dependent on every business. It's not, you don't have a common formula for it. Sometimes some businesses thrive during the Christmas and Diwali season. So maximum, like, fireworks, the Shivakashi guys, that is their timing. That's when they're marketing. Okay, but at the same time may not be good for other businesses. So understanding what is the timing where you invest money, when you need to place your advertisement. And finally, the expansion speed is what you're doing here. The expansion speed is how fast are you duplicating yourself? How fast can you duplicate your process? How fast can you train other people to take it to other markets, right? And there's one final sharing that I have is you can never expand if you don't have a good functional team. Your office team is the most important team, and many times we ignore it. We ignore that team. We don't like foster them, educate them, because let's say tomorrow I'm selling 50 franchises or 30 franchises. I used to sell at a pace of 30 to 40 franchises in India, but if I don't have a good team at the back end to support my franchisees, train, educate, then you falter. So invest in that team because that's most important. And with that, thanks. You can connect with me either on Facebook or LinkedIn, and I'm happy to open up to any questions that you have. Thank you. And I hope someone is keeping time for me as well. Yeah.
We can, I think, take one or two questions.
All right, sure.
Anybody has any question? I mean, don't miss this opportunity.
Hey, Gar.
Hi, Mac.
Hi.
How do you say, like, for expansion, you said something for a global level. For example, we are in service industry.
Correct.
Like, our brand is like tourism and hospitality. How do you suggest this brand to get into?
So,
because now is the time what we think is, because in this pandemic period, 3 years of the time, most of the companies, 150 years old companies like Cox and Kings and in our industry, they shut down their operation, and we see the better opportunity right now to get into the global level.
correct. So your question is, how do I expand? What is the very first step you do? The very first step I would do if I were you is to identify 2 or 3 countries, not more. Don't have, I don't want a list of 10 countries. You will do the other, you may have a dream of 10 countries, but pick 2 to 3 that you want to focus on this particular year. This year, okay? If you're in Cox and Kings, okay, I want to expand in, I think, Cambodia, for example. Now they have direct flights from Delhi to Cambodia. I'm just giving you an example. So picking 1 or 2 countries that are emerging, where you have now more connectivity into those countries, and once you have that is to find local partners, either through LinkedIn or through networks like BNI. There are other opportunities where you can find people. You will not be, or the other little bit more expensive way is you go in and you network with companies over there and establish it. But what I've seen is when you try to spam them or email them or thing, it doesn't work. No matter how fantastic you have your system, no matter how fantastic you have a franchise, end of the day, it's a human being that's operating that franchise. It's the driver of that franchise that's operated. So it is important that you take the effort to either go into that country to build that, but you may not have the resources to travel all these countries.
What do you suggest? You get into the direct or own operations, or like merge with somebody inside?
I walk through the 4 steps, depending on your budget and risk. In a travel, if I'm a travel operator, I'll first partner with someone there.
That is for the,
the
destination management is separate.
Second one, licensing may or may not be applicable to you because you're not licensing a logo or a product over there. The third thing, you go into franchising. But direct operations in a travel business may not be as capital intensive as setting up a manufacturing unit. Like for you, in your business, you'll have to take your own office, do the registrations, hire 1 or 2 people who can work with you. So if I were you, again, I haven't know more about your business. If I were you, I will pick the direct, again, based on the budget I have.
We are doing in the Middle East good in the same,
so you have
way
done it.
as you did. Yes,
So
Middle East.
In addition to Middle East, I would suggest Asia Pacific, pick 1 or 2 countries. Don't pick 10. If you pick 10, you will not achieve anything. If you pick 2, you will accomplish 2. And there's also from another book called 4DX, 4 Disciplines of Execution. Same thing they teach. You have 10 goals or 12 goals, you accomplish nothing. You set up 2 goals for your team, they accomplish it. If you set 5 goals, probably you'll accomplish still 2. So making sure that you set the right, and let's say, okay, this quarter, I'm going to expand in this market. Or the second half of the year, another 2 goals. Make sense? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.